we've got a wee bit of time for a question. I'm just going to flick straight across to everybody. The negativity and how do we turn it around? My house is coming down on just a wee personal thing, on the Tuesday after Easter, and quite frankly, I'm one of those people who says, I can't believe the luck that I'm having because my insurance company and EQC are going to give me a brand new house with double glazing. It's got everything that I could ever want in it. I've got brand new appliances, and I just think it's absolutely overwhelming that little wee Rob Cope Williams is getting a brand new house, having bought a second-hand one quite a few years ago. But everybody that I speak to, before I can get that bit out, are saying, oh, you poor thing, you're going to be, it'll probably be 6 or 8 months before you get into your new repaired house. I said, it's not repaired, it's brand new. Like, I mean, I'm trading in my 1974 X-Ray 6 and getting a brand new Jaguar. I mean, it is brand new. And yet they still come out with all the negativity rather than the positive. So, panel, how do we actually change that half-empty glass to the half-full and actually get Christchurch, Canterbury to buy in, to take ownership of our rebuild? Peter, we can lead off because you're right there.
Someone said to me the other day, why are you always so optimistic? And I said, what's the other bloody choice? But the real reason is because of the opportunity. And, you know, it's going to take a long time to rebuild Christchurch. It's going to take a long time to get back to where we came from. But we shouldn't stand to one side while that's happening. We can all be involved in New Zealand's biggest ever economic development program by a country mile. And that says opportunity for anyone who wants it. That's why I'm optimistic.
Leanne?
I think that we have to be respectful of where people are at. There are people in the city who are not able to participate in the excitement of building the newest city in the world. And I am an eternal optimist. But it is hugely challenging for those that have no idea when anything's going to happen, if they are going to get answers to the questions. I mean, there are people who've got unanswered questions about family members who've died. They've got people in the city who've suffered horrendous injuries, who feel completely overlooked. There are people in the city who have no idea whether their house is going to be repaired or rebuilt, and actually they have no confidence in the land that their house is on. And part of the problem is that they have been receiving mixed messages or no messages. And actually the not knowing is worse than actually knowing that you've got a very long time to wait. So I think that as a city, we have to actually commit to getting these things resolved. Then everyone will be able to participate. I think nobody left behind would be a very good solution and would stop any negativity. People aren't going to be negative when they're back on track, and there are a lot of people who aren't quite there yet.
Roger?
I mean, I think it is a city where the extremes are much greater than they were before. You know, the positive are much more positive than they were pre-quake, and the negative are more negative than they were, because that's just the way things are. I think as a leader we have to try and give vehicles to try and help people resolve the sort of issues that Leanne is talking about. I think we've made a lot more progress over the last few months than we have in the last 3 years on some of that stuff. But I think some of it is going to take time. But I think we do need to be accentuating the positive if we are going to see the city attract real talent, really exciting people who will take us into this next period of time. So I think we need to try and find that balance, but I think unless we accentuate the positive, then we're not going to be attracting the talent we need to make the city a fantastic place.
David, you're introducing traffic lights into your town, so you're pretty good at changing people's minds, I would think.
I think the answer comes from what Peter and Leanne have just said, and I think it's about communication of what's ahead. Rob, you're feeling positive because you know what the plan is for your house, and a lot of people don't know that plan. And I know in Rangiora, as soon as it was announced that farmers are going to demolish their building and rebuild, a lid is lifted off the local retailers just at that point. And it's still not, I mean, the building's still there, but at least they know it's going to happen. And that's a big help. And it's the same with people, as Leanne was saying, in the houses. We've got exactly the same situation in the Kawapō area.
And Ian, I mean, you've had some challenges trying to turn negatives into positives.
Well, that's right. And I think for us, it's through delivery. We just have to deliver. So, you know, very proud of the 52,000 houses that we fixed. And despite Surveygate last year, 85 to 90% of those people are really happy with the repair that local tradespeople have done to their house, but we've still got 20,000 people who don't know and have been waiting the longest. And our role, that's why we've set this really aggressive target to get them all repaired this year, because the ultimate, in terms of certainty, is knowing the house is fixed, being happy with it, and be able to move on with the rest of the recovery.
And Joanne, I'm sure you've got, as a scribe,
Yes, I've been heartened to hear the comments from the leaders here with us today that they are committed to transparency, certainty, good information. We know that's critical to the readers of the press. The complaints we hear most commonly are from people who just simply don't know what's happening in their lives, don't know where the city's going, and don't understand where our leaders are taking us. So I think good information, transparent and timeliness are critical to this community.
and I guess from my perspective as a broadcaster, I think the most important thing that we can do as a community, as in people in this room, is actually make sure we put it into very, very simple English, so that if we start talking about strategic plans and you're talking about all those other words that everyone in this room understands, don't forget that the people out there don't necessarily understand the terminology and what it actually is. You start talking about white papers and green papers and see what sort of reaction you're going to get. Please keep it real simple, and words are one syllable, and let them take ownership, because it's their city and you guys are working for them, but they probably don't necessarily understand that. We're going to have a wee break now, because we've got a lot of very, very good speakers coming up as well. 8 minutes. No, you want to keep... You want... Yeah, okay, we can have questions, that's not a problem. One good thing about this whole deal today is that we just go with it, we live it. And any questions from the floor? Yes, we have over here.
Yeah, hello, Chris Hawker from the University of Canterbury. As one of the people who shares David's frustrations with the transportation changes that have happened, is much because of the geographic relocation of a lot of people to the south, west and north of the city. How connected is the city with Transport New Zealand and looking at the major infrastructure hubs, transport hubs?
Just to repeat that question for those who may not have heard it, it was basically how connected is the transport to the National Transport Board?
To the National Transport.
To the National Transport. How connected is local to national?
Oh, well, I'm a member of the Regional Transport Committee.
Yeah, well, you're a good man.
I'll give a good bureaucratic response. There is a national policy statement that actually drives what happens around the country. What you see on the Southern Motorway and up Rusty Road, Johns Road and so on, that's one of the government's roads of national significance. Some of it is, it's all about roads and motorways, Northern Arterial, Western Belfast bypass and so on. I think that connection is there. It's to make sure that the government policy statement, which is up for renewal, has in it what we need in Canterbury, because that's open right now for input, and we've got real needs in Canterbury, and it doesn't have to be motorways. I immediately acknowledge that. It's about how we move people around our region, and we do have major problems. I don't think it's all roadworks. It's relocation of population. It seems to, well, I think it's pretty obvious that while there's been growth in the western parts of Christchurch and north and south of the city, it doesn't take much to tip free-flowing traffic to clogged traffic. It just a very small tipping point, and suddenly you've got problems. And I think we've suddenly hit that.
Very easy to tip a good mood into a bad one when there was no roadworks there the day before too. Anyone else like to talk about that?
Can I just say, I was in Wellington a couple of weeks ago, and there was an accident down at Petone, and the whole of Wellington was gridlocked within an hour. You couldn't move. We ended up walking, which Roger Sutton would be pleased about. But for me, it's about getting better coordination between our transport plans. We've got, as far as I know, we've got about 5 different transport plans that subtend onto the city. We've got Sarah's got their CCDU's got a transport plan for the central city. City Council's got a transport plan, Environment Canterbury's got a transport plan, NZTA's got a transport plan, the Greater Christchurch Urban Development Strategy's got a transport plan. Let's make sure that we're all on the same page working towards agreed common objectives, because that's going to avoid a lot of confusion.
Look, the parties are working together to try and make it work. But I mean, it goes back to what I was saying. You know, we can do all this cool, sexy stuff, but if the transport stuff doesn't work, then you really don't have a city. So as leaders, we need to make sure we put the right emphasis on that boring stuff as well, because the boring stuff is often what makes the city fantastic.
Any further questions? Could you please stand and use the microphone? That'd be great.
Hello, my name is Joe Davies. I'm from the Hagley Ferrymead Community Board. My question's for Ian Simpson. Just to do with the research program that EQC are undergoing with the private insurance companies, say the solutions are found, the cost-effective solutions are found to fix this residential land. What do you see as the future for that land and within 10 years if the solution is found?
That's a great question. So, I mean, this is one of the real benefits, the broader benefits of the research that's going on. So, to try to overly summarise it, I'm sure some of the engineers in the room are not going to like this, but effectively what we try and do is take TC3 land and turn it into TC1 or TC2 land. So, and once that repairs into the ground, then that's it. It is effectively a different type of land that you can build on with confidence for years to come. So it is quite transformational in that effect. Yeah.
Any other questions? I mean, they may be hovering around a wee bit, but they're all pretty busy people, so I wouldn't be at all surprised if they disappeared. One over at the back there.
My name is Junko Christensen. I represent WeCan. It's a question for Ian Simpson in regards to the land remediation. The TC categories, they're based on the first 10 metres of crust, but in the eastern suburbs, subsidence takes place down to 20 metres at least. What gives you the confidence that these solutions will be reliable? I have to explain that Bridge Street Bridge was one of these engineering export opportunities. All the cement that was pumped into the ground there, it washed away and washed into the river. What gives you the confidence that these solutions are going to work?
Sure. So what gives us the confidence is the extensive nature of the trial. So the work in the red zone, where we tried a whole bunch of techniques, some of which worked, some of which didn't. So that was the point of a trial. You work out what works. Huge international peer review. So you heard a lot of American voices on the video, but that's the University of Berkeley. It's a whole range of research institutions that are real, cutting edge in terms of this research around the world. The data that was then collected from, you may have saw the reports of the T-Rex machine, so a machine from the States that drove over these things, places the weight in them and simulates a 1 in 100-year earthquake, and then using explosives to test them to destruction. So that's all the work we did. The data's been collected, internationally peer-reviewed, and we are confident these solutions will perform as expected. You raise a really good point, because before we've done these trials, the only solutions that are out there in the guidelines in the TC3 areas are to drive piles right through all the liquefiable layers. So we're spending over $100,000 on a rebuild of a single-storey house in the ground before we even rebuild the house. It's just not practicable in terms of the broader rebuild. So what our techniques are trying to do is take that solid crust that's above the liquefiable layer and make sure that's robust enough to withstand the shaking. And even if there is some element of tilting, it tilts in one piece and it's robust enough to enable the house to be re-leveled in a post-a-future earthquake. So it's about the ongoing maintainability of the houses. The biggest tragedy we've had, well, sorry, not the biggest, one of the tragedies we've had across Canterbury are all these relatively modern houses that suffered damage that, with a little bit more thought into foundation systems or the ground techniques before they were built, they would have been repairable rather than complete demolitions. So that's what we're trying to achieve through the process.
Your challenge there is that the groundwater is at less than a metre, and if you pump a cement into that sort of soil, it won't cure.
And so one technique is the horizontal piles with the cement in the soil. There are others we're using. Let's be honest, there are some parts of TC3 where the techniques don't work. So we're not saying we can repair every single house. There are some parts of TC3 that had huge liquefaction risk before the earthquake, and they've still got it now. So there isn't one size that fits all, and we can't find a technique for every section, but we need to do as much as we can across the area.
Can we give the panel a very big hand, please, because I think they've been very, very great.